So they are a deliverer because what? They are the ones that hand over
and handing out the exhibits again,
to
Commissioner.
Mpangase if things were done properly. Ordinarily, he would be handing over.
That's correct, Commissioners.
Okay, all right. And then lastly, in CJC 193, the smaller exhibit, the second page, and you touched on this, where Warrant Officer Mpangase gives the reason why the items are being taken out of Isipingo, and he says items taken for analysis. Is it a correct understanding for me to understand this to mean these, as far as this is concerned, this document, these exhibits remained under the control of Isipingo? They were just taken out for analysis.
No.
They were not being transferred to another police station.
No, it does not remain under the custodianship or command of the Isipingo Station Commander. Mpangase assumed full responsibility for the exhibits when he booked it out.
Okay, maybe let me ask it differently. So let's say, forget that we have 194 CJC, forget about it. Imagine it's not there. And all I have is this 193. And I look there where it says item taken for analysis. It gives me Mpangase and his first number. Should I expect that if I go to Isipingo, if this is all I'm dealing with, if I go to Isipingo, I should find these exhibits there? Because he says they've been taken out for analysis, or does it mean taken out for analysis ordinarily would even include transferring them to a different station?
Commissioner, it can only mean what he has said here. It's taken for analysis. So it's not supposed to be at Isipingo Station further. The only place it can be will be at the different police station, but in terms of this entry, it's supposed to be at the Forensic Science Laboratory,
Yes.
and at no other place.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Silo, I want to ask a question, and please feel free to stop me if you're still coming to it, because I may be getting ahead of myself.
Thank you.
General, shouldn't there be another document akin to CJC's 193 and 194 reflecting the arrival of these exhibits at the Port Shepstone DPCI offices and their storage there? Shouldn't there be a document that accounts for that process?
Commissioner, in the normal way of going about investigations, obviously there will be contemporaneous notes and statements filed to that effect. But here it's clear that there was no SAP 13 register at the unit in Port Shepstone, and that's why, in order to obtain a reference number for the exhibits, that's why it was just booked in the paper exercise at Port Shepstone Police Station.
But then how do we know that 551 bags actually arrived at the DPCI offices in Port Shepstone if there's no document recording the arrival of those exhibits in the form described in 193 to say it was 541 1 kg bricks containing powder that looks like cocaine? So how do we know that these bricks ever made their way to the warehouse or the office in Port Shepstone if there's no document that records that?
That's indeed true, and it is a shortcoming, Commissioner, that you are identifying. But there are witness statements to that effect in the case docket, and I would prefer not to elaborate more on that specific aspect at this point, please.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you, Commissioner. But I think if I understand the question correctly myself, maybe I just might be confusing. The question is slightly different. I understand, and we are aware of the statements that are in the docket. What I understood, Commissioner Kumalo, to try and establish from you is we have the SAP 13 from Isipingo. That's a formal objective document that survives anyone's death, so to speak, right? We have the second, which is the SAP Port Shepstone police station document. Without having to resort to statements obtained under certain circumstances, is there a document, a objective separate from everything else and not a statement obtained under, let's say, during investigations after the theft? Is there a Port Shepstone DPCI officer's document that reflects that on this day, at this time, these exhibits were received?
I am not aware of such, Commissioners.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner. I want to, yes, Commissioner.
And that seems to be what paragraph 9.1 contemplates, that there would have been an SAP 13 register of the DPCI, which would then have recorded these exhibits.
That is how it was supposed to work,
Yes.
Commissioner.
Thank
Indeed,
you.
your understanding is correct, Commissioner Baloy.
Thank you. Thanks, Mr.
Thank you, Commissioner Baloy. You recall when we were dealing with CJC 194, this is the Port Shepstone Police Station, SAP 13. I had started to make a particular comment, then I corrected myself and I said I misread the document. And that was in relation to the description of the exhibits. The first entry at 3.1 states that it's one FSL exhibit bag and gives a number containing 20 bricks of powder suspected to be cocaine. We dealt with that. I then corrected myself that Port Shepstone Police Station doesn't deal with the exhibits as definitely cocaine, but maintains the position assumed by Isipingo as well that it's powder suspected to be cocaine. On closer reflection, when I look at 3.2, it says 20 bricks, I don't know, of some word cocaine sealed in exhibit. Because I don't know what is the word that precedes cocaine, I'll prefer, or drugs. That then, if you look at 3.2 following, every other entry is described as drug cocaine. It's no longer, what do I make of this? Only the first batch at 3.1 is suspected to be cocaine, and the rest are definitely cocaine? Or must I read this document to mean that notwithstanding the wording of 3.2 to 3.31, they are still all suspected to be cocaine? As a police officer, how would you advise we properly read it?
Commissioners, the entry reflected in 3.1 is indeed spot on. That is how it's supposed to be. Because according to my knowledge, there was no presumptive test conducted at the crime scene or at Isipingo Police Station to indeed confirm that it was cocaine. So 3.1 is correct. From 3.2 onwards, if all speak about cocaine, that will be inaccurate.
Thank you. Okay, I'd invited us then to go back to your statement, your original statement. And I think, based on where you concluded yesterday, we should pick it up from page 23, paragraph 65.
Not 64.
I was wondering whether it's 64, 65. I'd marked 65, but
actually
I'm
have-
happy to go back to
I
65.
actually have a mark against 64.
That will do so, Chair. In fact, I'll go a step back, perhaps to contextualize. At 63, you say I referred earlier to the November 2021 information note by General Musikidi. Do you see where I'm reading?
That's correct, Commissioners.
And then, as the Chair suggests, we then must pick it up from your paragraph 64. Correct?
That's correct,
Can you
Commissioners.
deal then with the contents of paragraph 64?
Yes, Commissioners. There is an allegation that FSL was again contacted on 27 October 2021 to expedite the analysis report. However, Warrant Officer Sechedi reiterated that FSL did not have space to store the exhibits. This is after FSL had received 700 kilograms of cocaine seized in Ayrton in July 2021. Curiously, no attempts were made to increase security at the premises or to move the cocaine to a more secure location after the attempted break-in.
If you could continue then on to 65, then we will turn our attention to the information note you reference.
I say this especially because even before the exhibits were stored at Port Shepstone, the premises had not been secure. In the information note, General Musikidi refers to 6 break-ins at the premises before June 2021, with the most recent before the theft being on 15 January 2021. Most importantly, on 22 January 2020, Lieutenant Colonel S.R. Singh, Acting Section Commander Counterintelligence Crime Intelligence KZN, submitted a report to the Provincial Head of Crime Intelligence KZN, Provincial Head of the DPCI KZN, Section Head Operations Crime Intelligence KZN, Section Commander Ugu Cluster Crime Intelligence KZN, and the National Head Security Standard Counterintelligence to address the security breach at the Port Shepstone premises following the 20 January 2020 break-in. The report is attached to General Musikidi's information note.
Okay, there are 2 issues, particularly in this paragraph, that I think we should deal with sequentially. The first is you say the report references 6 previous break-ins at the premises before June 2021. General Musikidi's report and information note is your annexure HFF4, starting at page 113. That is the document you reference, correct?
It is correct, Commissioners.
Okay, now if you turn to page 118, the heading there is the security aspect. And are these the break-ins you referred to at your paragraph 65?
That's correct, Commissioners.
I don't know if, because I've been particularly dyslexic this morning, whether I have it wrong. I count, excluding the last, which is the actual break-in at Port Shepstone in November 2021, resulting in the theft of the drugs, I count 7 previous. You reference 6. Who is dyslexic this time, General, between you and I? But most important, are these the same break-ins you referred to at paragraph 65?
Commissioners, indeed, it's the same break-ins, and I accept responsibility for that error. It's indeed 7 and not 6.
Most importantly, it's for my own self-esteem, because it confirms I'm not particularly dyslexic. Thank you. So you say that would make it 7, according to that table, 7 break-ins at the Port Shepstone DPCI offices from December 2011 to October 2021. And once again, I'm discounting the last entry. Am I correct?
That's correct, Commissioners.
In your experience, how secure would you consider premises that have been broken into that many times over a 10-year period? I can make a call. I don't know if this is highly insecure, medium, or low. What comment would you give to that?
Commissioners, I'm of the view that that is almost not secured. It just shows us that here's a lot of opportunities for prospective housebreakers or burglars to gain access to this premises. So the security measures at that office obviously was not at the required standard.